Known you, Larry, for a million years, and I know you've been so busy involved with your work with Metan, which does work with China and doing and so on and so forth.
Sure. I mean, for the last 10 years, I've been really active in Asia, particularly China. And, I decided I wanted to go someplace where it would be very, very difficult and I would have to really learn from the very beginning. So
you were early, very early.
I'll go to a country I'd never been to and do TV programming in a language I don't speak. We've had a bunch of shows on there. We've had series on TV, their equivalent of the TV networks, everything from reality shows to drama shows to, comedies, etc., and doing some motion pictures. But with this virus, everything's come to a screeching halt. We've got to put all production on hold. Things we do around the world for China and things we do in China for other places in the world, everything is on hold still. And, so I've been hunkered down in Los Angeles, haven't been able to go anywhere. So, at the house, and I've planted the vegetable garden and I've organized all my closets and, trying to figure out what's next.
I thought I was going to do all of that. I am very busy putting out Televisionation. We're getting a little echo for some strange reason. Okay. All of my projects have gone by the wayside for now, but that's okay. This is fun. We're really getting to see what everyone's doing in the community. Okay, so I wanted to quickly show people a little bit about your service and your site. Shall we do that? Or we also have a video, a little bit about you, because you're a veteran of the industry. Which one?
Whichever you want, doesn't make a difference.
All right, well, I'd like to show your video first, perhaps.
Okay.
A little bit about you, and so people understand, how long you've been in this industry, such a veteran, and all that you've done. I think it's about 2 minutes long.
Sure, go ahead.
Larry Namer is an industry veteran with over 40 years of professional entertainment experience. Larry started his career with Manhattan Cable on the ground floor. Well, really below the ground floor as an underground cable splicer. Larry's keen insights were soon noticed, and as a newly appointed vice president, he was put in charge of building the first 61-channel two-way interactive cable system in the U.S., named by Forbes as the national model for cable programming. A few months later, Larry and friend Alan Murufka had the wild idea of building a 24-hour entertainment network. Many didn't see the sense in it until a chance encounter got Larry the initial investment for what would become E! Entertainment. A few years later, E! became the fastest growing network in the world, seen in over 140 countries with a valuation of nearly $4 billion. In time, he launched Comspan Communications, which launched Western Entertainment in Russia. Larry brought Western shows and musical acts that changed the post-Soviet Russian TV landscape forever. Soon after, Larry becomes a consultant at Microsoft's Interactive TV. He launches Television.com and becomes the co-founder of Eurocinema. In 2009, Larry is brought in as a consultant on media restructuring in China to allow for Western advertising standards. There, he is offered an opportunity to start the first U.S.-China production company. Later that year, Larry launches Metan Global and goes on to be nominated for the Best Asian Comedy Writer Award, amongst other accolades. In 2015, Larry was honored with the American Chinese CEO Society Icon Award. In 2018, Larry was named chairman of Super D Studios and their portfolio of entertainment brands.
Yeah, I've been around.
You've been around. So you're such an early mover, and there's a lot going on now. And even if things are on hold, we want to hear about what you have been doing in China and what you think about the content landscape going forward. I
Sure.
can do some screen sharing to your website when you're ready. We can show some of that content that's there.
Okay. So in China, the smartest thing we ever did was decide early on that we were going to program in Mandarin language and, specifically for Chinese audience. So where other Western companies really looked at it in China and said, okay, we'll take the shows we do in Australia or around the world and we'll subtitle them in Mandarin. We realized that was never going to work in a country like China that was just so big and so proud of their heritage that they were not going to accept, somebody else's leftovers. So that was the smartest thing we did. So we've done the first show that I did there was kind of a throwback to my old days. It was called the Hello Hollywood, or in Chinese, Hello Hollywood. And it was my Chinese team in Los Angeles with Chinese hosts would run around to the parties, the premieres, and all of that stuff. And that ran 8 years. That was like the first Western made TV show that was ever really made it to national TV.
I'm assuming the hosts could speak English and Chinese?
The host spoke, yeah. We recruited, a great deal of our staff came out of USC or UCLA. They were, the criteria for hiring was you had to be born in mainland, speak fluent Mandarin, of course, and eventually want to return to mainland. So we could train people here for, 2 years, and then they would go back and they would, kind of help us build up our Beijing and Shanghai offices, which has turned out quite well. And then we started doing a nighttime drama, kind of a throwback to the Gossip Girl, the Spoiled Rich Girls in Shanghai. And then, we did a bunch of other drama shows. And then probably the one that I'm most proud of is I came up with an idea for a sitcom, which everybody said, Larry, you've never written sitcom, so doing it in English is going to be really hard, but how are you going to do it in a language you don't speak? And I recruited a group. I had 7 women writers, and it's interesting because we had all women. And
very good. Very good.
Well, the reason was that my sense of humor is like silly, and Chinese men were just too serious. They couldn't get being just plain out silly and doing crazy, dopey things. So I came up with this idea of having a show, a sitcom, that was based on this premise of what happens in a society where you have incredible economic growth in a very short period of time, but people's social skills don't grow as quickly as their bank account. So, you can kind of take Beverly Hillbillies, meet Green Acres, and do that. And the show was about a family who made it big that came from a small town, living in Beijing, living the high life, and then circumstances bring them back to the little village that the boy grew up in, the guy grew up in. And that kind of dynamic between old and new, rich and poor, rural and urban, and stuff like that. But what was most interesting about it was narrated by a donkey who lived on the farm, which, the people from the little village thought the people from the city were crazy. The people from the city thought the people from the village were crazy. The donkey just thought they were all crazy. And it was very interesting, what happened, because at first, people just looked at me and they said, Larry, you understand that donkeys don't talk, right? But then once they got it, once they kind of got the joke, they started to pick up on it. And, the show did incredibly well. It went 70 episodes, 70, which, was amazing. And it was actually nominated at the Asia TV Awards as the best comedy sitcom to come out of China that year, which for me is pretty amazing that, the funniest TV show in China in that year was written by a New York Jew.
Well, there are interesting relationships between Chinese culture and Jewish culture, right?
Incredible. Yeah. I mean, we're the two that go back 5,000 years, I think. And all you got to do is go to any Chinese restaurant on a Sunday night and,
or on Christmas Eve.
On Christmas Eve, yeah.
And my mom is playing mahjong as we speak right now, every day.
So I just found it fascinating. I really immersed myself in it. I took an apartment in an old Chinese neighborhood. I didn't move into an expat neighborhood, so I really wanted to kind of learn
Do you
everyday
speak
life.
do you speak Chinese now?
I speak, listening to Mandarin with a Brooklyn accent is a scary, scary thing. Um, so I sound like a guy out of The Sopranos trying to speak Chinese. It's not fun to listen to. But so
There
we've been doing that in China. We've been doing some concerts. We have a company there. We have a little consulting company that helps Western companies um, kind of navigate the waters of setting up business in China. So non-media companies. We help some manufacturing companies, some beauty care companies uh, get the right licenses, make the right connections to legal and strategic partners, and all of that stuff.
shall I show some things on your site? Some of
Sure,
that
go ahead.
content?
Yeah,
Okay.
go.
All right. I will open it up right now. So, okay, great. So, this is just your page that explains what you're about. And I think is this which of these is the venture that you have? Is it this one?
Which one? That's with writers from the U.S.
This
That
one?
Wenji Ku is writers from the U.S. who got caught in this age discrimination thing here. The writers over 50 who won Academy Awards and Emmy Awards, and but yet being over 50 years old, they couldn't find work in the U.S. anymore. And what we found was the greatest deficiency in the Chinese media scene was good writing, understanding storytelling technique and stuff. So we managed to set up a company which would match very experienced, wonderful U.S. writers who are out of work with Chinese production companies to help them with script development and story development and that stuff. So that's Wenjiku.
Is that still happening?
Yeah, we still do that. And
What about Ming Yan?
oh, and then Ming Yen is a company that was open. Two gals. They're located in Shanghai, and what that company was meant to do was take Western brands and Western celebrities and help them uh, bring in the social media things that they might be doing in the U.S. Like a celebrity here, might have a team that does their Instagram, their Facebook, and all of that. But now you have the largest or second largest media market in the world being China, and it's important for those people who establish and build themselves as brands there. So Ming Yen, that's their function, is to bring brands in there and help them get set up with China social media.
And then you have something called Metan Mayu Media.
Yeah, that's a production company that is located in Beijing, and they're the ones that actually do all the physical production on all the projects we do.
And how about this project with Bruce Lee's daughter?
Oh yeah, so with Shannon Lee and Keanu Reeves and Michael Benaroya from Benaroya Films, we started a reality show format that was really, I mean, now everything's on hold, of course, but uh, that was really based on our thinking that the world is looking for some positive news. This is virus, and it's really based on the philosophies of Bruce Lee. So think of Survivor, but instead of vote your neighbor off the island, it was who best exemplifies the things that Bruce stood for, which is really, reach within yourself, be the best you can be good to the planet, be good to your neighbor kind of stuff.
Okay, so I thought we should go look at a little bit of content. I wasn't sure which one you'd like to show.
You can show Fashion X. That was kind of interesting. That actually won some awards in Cannes last year.
Okay.
I'm in the business of fashion, but I'm in a people business. So I get inspired by people.
Have you ever been to China?
I'm dying to know.
大家好，我爱你。我是主持人 Coco Fashion X 为您带来全球时尚的最优解，不知道能不能挤进去？跟着 Coco 一起看一下。This week, can I interview you real quick?
Thanks for saying that I judge myself in the mirror every night, because I do. Why China?
I think that there's so many more places that we can go. It's a reflection of the fact that the business is becoming more and more global.
Fashion X.
Hello, Fashion X 的朋友们，大家好，我是 Q 小白。我们现在在纽约时装周的后台。And you're watching Fashion X. I'm Kelly Rutherford, and you're watching Fashion X.
Okay, great.
That was a fun show to do.
And let's see. I don't think we'll show any of the other ones at length, but you can see. I can't read the Chinese myself, but there's soap operas and young people.
Show Modern Life or Planet
Modern Life?
Nobodies, either one.
Okay, I sort of like the look of this one. It kind of reminded me of Friends a little bit.
That's very funny because everybody says that it was Friends, but it wasn't. But it's very similar in a lot of ways.
Okay, well, that is a good place to go back to you, Larry.
Sure.
Unless you wanted to show more, but there's so much more to see. You can certainly play some of those.
Yeah, that people can find most of those on the website. But I think just looking at that clip, it reminds me that what was interesting about that show, I mean, I think the show was really good and it did really well. I think we had over 50 million viewers on that show, which is
50 million?
Yeah, we had 53 million, I think was the exact number. But there was an openly gay character in the show. And I think it was the first time. Yeah, the first time on Chinese television that there was an openly gay character. And I had some answering to do, but when we went through it, they let us go with it. So, yeah, it was fun. It was groundbreaking.
So what are the opportunities now? I mean, things are in lockdown. It's difficult. You can't do production, or because things are changing back in China, are things going to open up? Is there some opportunity to produce more somehow, or virtual content, or go into people's homes and interview them by webcams and stuff? What are your new plans?
I'll tell you what we're in the middle of that will pick up probably the quickest. So China is they're moving out of the lockdown gradually. It's not just turning the switch and everything happens. So, but our guess is by after the summer sometime, things will begin to normalize. We don't think they normalized before the end of the summer. But one of the shows that we were doing is called Explore the World. And Explore the World was done in Mandarin, but it was a show young Chinese tourists interesting places to go beyond London and Paris and stuff. Chinese last year, for the last few years, have been the number one outbound tourists in the world. This year, they were expecting 110 million Chinese to travel outside of China, which obviously won't happen. But there's incredible pent up demand. So as soon as production can pick up, we'll go back to shooting this Explore the World series. We just finished shooting Croatia, one about the country itself, another about the capital, Zagreb, and those will go on digital platforms. They'll go on Youku and probably iQIYI or Mango, and so those will help jumpstart the tourism business again. A lot of these countries that are trying to figure out their economy, once everything is safe, they're going to want that influx of Chinese tourist money, and that's going to be the quickest recovery point for a lot of these companies. So we've been doing a lot of stuff around the Balkans. We're scheduled to go to the Middle East next, and probably following that, we'll do South America and stuff. But it's very Anthony Bourdain-like, so it's not so much here's a picture of a historical site. It's really about the pop culture, the music, the people, the food, the fashion. More stuff what young people are interested in than It's like
is there any chance to get this distributed in the U.S.? And on where are you on which platforms around the world?
Yeah, and well, in China, we're on, because the show is done. That show is done in Mandarin, and so in China, it's going to be on Youku and one other digital platform, and those have global reach. Those reach every Mandarin-speaking person on the planet. And again, what's interesting, besides Mandarin speakers in China, there's 50 million Mandarin speakers who live outside of China. So this is will be of great interest to them. And then, and we'll put it on YouTube. It'll have its own YouTube channel and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of students here and Mandarin speakers that'll like it. But then we're doing another show that's called Explore China. And actually, Explore China.
Explore China.
And that it's hosted by Hal Sparks. Hal used to be one of the hosts of Talk Soup. And so that show is done in China, but done in English. And again, it's this very whimsical look going around China and going to things like the marriage market where parents are trying to get their daughters married off. And
marriage market?
Yeah, they have a thing called the marriage market. It's every Saturday and Sunday at the park. People bring pictures of their kids and they try and matchmake their kids and stuff
that sounds like a great show. I'd like to see that.
It's a lot of fun, and then there's a great food scene and wine scene happening in China now. There's a lot of stuff going on with environment and ecology, which we cover that. So it's so that show is in English. It's going to be a 20-part series. We've shot 13, and then we had to stop. But that'll go on most likely Amazon. Fine.
What about mobile, social platforms? Are you developing content for short form, opportunities?
Yeah.
TikTok, Quibi?
It's actually interesting because in China, the stuff we do in Mandarin, most of our viewership is actually on mobile platforms. So you take Hello Hollywood, we estimated 75% of people who watch that show are actually watching it on a cell phone. So we adopted the production technique so that, now with a TV show, you do your final edit on this big TV screen in an edit room. We would actually do final edit on a cell phone so that we could see the program the same way that the viewer or the majority of viewers would eventually see it. So if you watch it on a big TV, it looked a little bit odd because you had a lot of these real close-ups. But when you watch it on a cell phone, it looked perfect.
Well, if you could get this content distributed here, how do you think that could happen? Is that on Roku or on TV, or do you think Netflix would be interested? I mean, are you approaching any of these companies behind the scenes? Can you talk about that publicly?
Yeah, sure. So shows like Explore China, we're talking to the big digital platforms, so the Rokus and Amazons and the Netflix, and we think that's a good fit there. And but yeah, so we're talking to all the stuff we do in English. We're talking to all. The other thing we do is develop things as formats. Like if you take the Bruce Lee project, that was developed to be a format so that while you may do it in China or India first, and you do it with local people in local language, that format is easily adaptable to English or Spanish or any other place. So that could go anywhere. And, they're working on another show that most likely will go to a Netflix or an Amazon or possibly an HBO.
I mean, I mean, you got involved in early, but I mean, how have you navigated the restrictions, the controls, the government likes to be involved in a lot of different things. I don't know that much about it. So can you enlighten us about how you've been able to insert yourself in the Chinese culture so that you're, a viable content entity? What's it like?
Well, for us, it's been really good. I mean, like I said, the smartest thing we did was decided to produce in Mandarin language for that audience particularly. So that ingratiated us to the powers that be there. And, we didn't come in with a political agenda. So we're not there to, free Tibet or, recognize Taiwan as being part of China. It's just not our business. The way I've looked at everything, and if you remember, I did a lot of stuff in Russia for 10 years. I had big TV shows there and stuff. I hate to say it, but I liken it to, visiting my mother's house in Florida, rest her soul. But, I would say to my mom, hey, let's go out for, Chinese food at 8 o'clock. And she'd go, no, we're going to go for deli at 5. And I go, no, I don't eat dinner at 5. I eat at 8. And she'd go, listen, in this house, we eat dinner at 5 and we'll go into the deli. If you don't like it, go stay in the motel. But I liken that to when I go into another country. It's not my country. And, it's not my place to tell them what's right or wrong and stuff. I'm a guest in their house. And if I don't like the rules, I should go someplace else. And that's the way we manage to navigate the waters there. We don't we don't get involved in political stuff. And the rules are not as harsh as you might think. I mean, if you remember back, we used to have a thing in the U.S. called standards and practices, where they would review everything that was done before it got on TV. It's not that different in China. They've allowed us, a great deal of leeway. I mean, we cover Hollywood parties and decadence and stuff like that. And, they really haven't had a problem with that. The only show we ever got censored, we came up with an idea of doing a show based on vanity pets. I'm going back a little. And, we ended up getting called on it. And they going, Larry, you want to do this show on vanity pets? Don't you know about the 2013 edict prohibiting, promotion of vanity pets? And I'm like,
what would be a vanity pet?
Like a cute little dog that you dye them to look like a leopard, or
right,
or
which they do here. People will do that here.
They do that here, and we thought, it was beginning to catch on in China. You started seeing it all over. And when I talked to the guys in the government, it was actually quite interesting, because my first thing was like, why don't you want this on TV? I mean, what are you planning on doing, eating the animals? Which they didn't like when I said that. But they said, no, they said, Larry, when you look at things like when you guys report in the West, you report that, there's money just flowing all over China, and it's true that 400 million people in China are now being considered middle class, and they have buying power, and they go to restaurants and they buy new clothes and cars and trips and all that. They said, but there's 900 million people that are very poor. We don't want anything on TV that encourages people to spend money on buying their dog a sweater when they should be, feeding their kid, or at least feeding the pig, because they could eat, they could have food for the family. So we don't want to encourage that kind of behavior because we're not ready for that. And you know what? I got it. I said, you know what? It never occurred to me that way, but you're right. We shouldn't be encouraging that. We should be encouraging people to take care of the necessities of life first, and then start, getting crazy with money.
Is there any way to do content now and to communicate something interesting, but with COVID-19 being, being COVID-19 aware, can you create something in a distributed fashion now or not?
Yeah,
Is that
we're
you
actually,
mentioned that earlier? But is there something that can be done?
yeah, we're actually in development with something, and we're going through the process of getting it approved. As programming there, and I mean, literally, it's days old, so it's not a long process. Um, where now that the restrictions have been lifted, Wuhan is to sending a crew in, which our crews are mixed, Western and Chinese, and doing documentaries in both English and Mandarin um, about the post virus era, like talking to people, what really happened, how are they affected, how are they coping, where are they going, what's their plans for the future, and just doing all of that stuff. And we think we would be probably the first Western crew that's really been allowed in with that kind of access and stuff. So hopefully that'll come through within the next few days.
I have a somewhat tangential question, which is, you've been involved in the interactive TV business for a long time, and I know you're not necessarily doing ITV with what you're doing now, but do they have interactive TV over there? Is that an opportunity potentially where people can click and get more information? And is there an on-demand, SVOD, AVOD community that, give me an understanding of the landscape there.
The landscape, I mean, it's incredible. First of all, just the sheer size of it. I mean, a lot of the things that we talked about, doing back in the ITV days, were impractical because there wasn't enough deployment of devices that were capable of doing it, and we're not quite sure people were ready to have that level of interaction with a TV set. In China, it's quite different because they've jumped over technologies and stuff. So now, most of TV viewing among people under 40 is being done on, mobile devices, whether they be pads or phones. And they all have interactive capability. There's a lot of commerce that's tied to all the content that's on there.
Really?
Where
In what way?
Well, I'll tell you, we did this drama, and and it was really fashion focused drama. And in the show, one of the girls wears great shoes. Hey, great shoes! Where'd you get them? Oh, I got them on Sparkle.com. 2 episodes later, going great shoes. She goes, "Hi, I told you I get them on Sparkle.com." Well, we actually own Sparkle.com, and we had a shoe designer on the production staff, and we designed Shoe of the Month Club. And I think we actually made more money selling shoes than we made on licensing the TV show. But and that was an early on and stuff. The numbers are just enormous. Like I say, with things like that drama. I mean, we would get 8 and 10 million people watching at a time, which here would be that's the Super Bowl kind of level. So yeah, there's a lot of that stuff going on. When we did Fashion X, we tied designer products to e-commerce opportunities and stuff. And I think now more and more that going out to retail stores is not coming back as quickly, if at all. You'll see much more stuff happening.
Are you the Western? I think we're still having an echo. Are you one of the only Western entrepreneurs doing content collaborations like this, or are there many others?
There's not many. We were certainly the first and probably the most focused in that, the focus of Metan is China. So it's not like we are doing stuff in Australia and we just happen to do some stuff in China once in a while. We are focused on, we are determined to make China work as a business. So that separates us out. There's a few folks that have dipped their toe in the water there, Westerners. It's hard to manage a country the size of China and with the nationalistic feelings there, to manage it from Hollywood. It just doesn't work. They go, if you really want to build your business here, you got to be here. You got to understand our people, our rules, our language, etc. It's no different than we are here. I mean, you don't watch NBC and see programs in French,
Well, we've gone way over time because I always have such a great conversation whenever we get together. I wish I get to see you more, perhaps. But just anything in particular as my last question that has shocked you in your whole experience, or just really surprised you about the difference in the cultures and how you do your work.
Sure. The biggest difference that I found in China is that the people who have money tend to be much younger than they are anywhere else in the world. The money in China is concentrated 25 to 40 in general. Of course, there's overlap each way. But, here in the U.S., to see a woman decked out in Chanel, she's typically going to be, 45 plus. In China, it's not unusual to find a 22-year-old wearing this year's Chanel, line and stuff. So in programming, you really got to understand those kind of differences and stuff. So, if we're looking to do something for Chanel, we might do it on Lifetime Network here. But if we're doing it in China, it would be something more like an MTV kind of approach. Very, very different in who has money and what they're looking to do.
Well, it's very interesting. It sounds like there are a lot of opportunities to work with you, perhaps, to collaborate, to bring content to China and back and forth.
Sure.
The world has become very, very close. As a result of all of this and all of these cultures, hopefully we'll be supportive of each other. And, Philo Farnsworth's old dream was for all of us to see how each other lives so that there wouldn't be any war. So I hope that is true going forward.
I do too.
Thank you so much, Larry. Happy Passover. Hugs to
Thank
that.
you. You too. Take care.
All right. Thanks so much. This is Tracy Swedlow, host of Televisionation. And Larry, of course, the CEO of Metan. We'll